The Three Brothers and the True Treasure of Happiness. Long ago, in a quiet village surrounded by tall trees and rolling green hills, there stood a small wooden cottage at the edge of a forest. The cottage was simple and old, but it was clean and strong, and inside lived three brothers named Samuel, Timothy, and Xander. The three brothers had lived together ever since they were young. They had no parents and no relatives, so they depended only on each other. Life had never been easy for them, but they were honest, hard-working, and kind-hearted. Every morning, before the sun had fully risen, Samuel would wake up first. He would quietly step outside and breathe in the fresh morning air. The forest nearby would still be covered in soft mist, and the sound of birds singing would echo gently through the trees. Soon, Timothy and Xander would join him. Together they would prepare their tools, axes, ropes, and bundles, and then begin their long walk into the forest. The forest was beautiful but demanding. The brothers spent hours cutting fallen branches and gathering firewood. Their hands often became sore and sweat covered their faces, but they never complained. They worked patiently, knowing this was how they survived. By afternoon, they would carry heavy bundles of wood back to the village market. The journey was slow and tiring, but they encouraged each other along the way. At the market, they sold the wood to villagers who used it for cooking and warmth. The money they earned was enough to buy simple food and maintain their small home. In the evening, they returned to their cottage, cooked their meals, and rested. To anyone watching, their life seemed peaceful and stable. But inside their hearts, something was missing. Samuel often stared at the small cottage and felt dissatisfied. He dreamed of living in a large and beautiful mansion. He imagined wide rooms, shining floors, and servants ready to assist him. Timothy, on the other hand, dreamed of wealth and success. He imagined owning vast farmland filled with golden crops stretching as far as the eye could see. He wanted security and freedom from constant labor. Xander dreamed of love and companionship. He imagined coming home to a kind and beautiful wife who would smile at him and bring warmth to his lonely heart. Though they had each other, they felt incomplete. One evening, as they sat outside their cottage, Samuel spoke softly. "Do you ever feel that something is missing in our lives?" he asked. Timothy nodded slowly. "Yes, we work hard every day, but it feels like we are moving nowhere." Xander sighed. "I often wonder if happiness exists somewhere beyond this forest." They fell silent, listening to the wind move through the trees. None of them knew the answer. One afternoon, after a long day in the forest, the brothers were walking home, tired and quiet. The sky was turning orange and the air was cool. Suddenly, they noticed an old woman walking ahead of them. She looked weak and bent with age. On her back, she carried a heavy sack that seemed too much for her fragile body. She walked slowly, struggling with every step. Samuel immediately stopped. "We should help her," he said. Timothy and Xander agreed without hesitation. They approached the old woman respectfully. "Excuse us," Samuel said gently. "May we help you carry your sack?" The old woman turned and looked at them. Her face was wrinkled and her clothes were worn, but her eyes were calm and kind. "You are very generous," she said softly. Timothy carefully lifted the sack onto his own back. It was heavier than he expected, but he said nothing. They walked together in silence for some time. Xander finally asked, "What is inside this sack?" The old woman smiled faintly. "Only apples that I gathered from the forest." The brothers took turns carrying the heavy load, even though they were already tired from their work. They did not complain, and they made sure the old woman walked safely beside them. At last they reached her small house near the edge of the village. The brothers placed the sack down and prepared to leave. The old woman looked at them with deep gratitude. "You have shown kindness without expecting anything in return," she said. The brothers smiled politely.
"We were only doing what anyone should do," Samuel replied. The old woman studied their faces carefully. "I can see that your hearts carry sadness," she said. The brothers were surprised. Samuel spoke honestly. "We have always worked hard, but we are not happy." The old woman nodded slowly. "If you could have anything in the world, what would make you happy?" she asked. Samuel answered first. "I wish to live in a grand mansion where I never have to struggle again." Timothy spoke next. "I wish to own fertile land so I can grow crops and become wealthy." Finally, Xander said quietly, "I wish for a loving wife, someone to share my life and bring me joy." The old woman smiled gently. "Return home," she said. "You will find what you seek." The brothers did not fully understand her words, but they thanked her and left. When they reached their cottage, they stopped suddenly. They could not believe their eyes. Next to their small cottage stood a magnificent mansion. Its walls were tall and elegant, and its windows shone in the evening light. Servants stood at the entrance. "Welcome, Master Samuel," one of them said. Samuel was speechless. Nearby, Timothy saw vast farmland filled with golden crops. Workers stood ready to assist him. And beside Xander stood a beautiful woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "I am your wife," she said softly. The brothers realized that their wishes had come true. Their hearts filled with excitement and joy. Their lives changed completely. At first, everything felt perfect. Samuel enjoyed his mansion. He walked through its grand halls and admired its beauty. Timothy proudly worked on his land. He watched his crops grow strong and healthy. Xander spent his days with his wife, enjoying her kindness and companionship. They believed they had finally found happiness. But as time passed, something unexpected happened. Samuel grew lazy. He stopped caring for his mansion. He spent his days doing nothing, and the excitement faded. Timothy became stressed. Managing the land required effort and responsibility. He felt tired and burdened. Xander grew accustomed to his new life. The joy he once felt became ordinary. Slowly, their happiness disappeared. They became restless again. One evening, the three brothers met. Samuel spoke first. "I thought this would make me happy forever," he said. Timothy nodded sadly. "I have everything I wished for, but I feel empty." Xander lowered his head. "I feel the same." They realized they needed answers. "We must find the old woman," Samuel said. They returned to her small house. She welcomed them calmly. "You have returned," she said. Samuel spoke respectfully. "We granted our wishes, and we were happy, but now that happiness is gone." The old woman nodded. "This is because you do not understand the true nature of happiness." The brothers listened carefully. "Happiness is not found in possessions. It is found in contentment." They were silent. She explained further. "When you received your wishes, you felt joy, but you did not appreciate what you had. You allowed your hearts to grow restless again." Timothy asked, "What should we do?" The old woman smiled. "Learn to be grateful. Care for what you have. Value each moment."
Her words were simple but powerful. The brothers realized their mistake. They returned home with new understanding. Samuel began caring for his mansion with pride. He appreciated its beauty and maintained it well. Timothy worked his land with dedication. He found satisfaction in watching his crops grow. Xander valued his wife deeply. He showed kindness and gratitude every day. This time their happiness remained, not because of what they owned, but because of how they saw their lives. They had discovered the true treasure of happiness, and from that day forward they lived not in search of more, but in appreciation of what they already had. And in that contentment they found peace that never faded.